Hello, Capricorn, and welcome to your love and relationships reading for February 2023. In this reading, we're going to take a look at your energy, at your connection to the person that you are currently connected to the strongest right now. So essentially the person that is trying to teach you the most right now. So we're going to look at your energy toward them, their energy towards you, and kind of that higher level truth of the connection. The way that I encourage you to look at this is there are three sides to every story, right? So there's your perception, and your version of the truth, their perception, their version of the truth, and then kind of that higher level unbiased truth in the middle. I encourage you to think outside the box a little bit. Make sure that when you're listening to this reading that you're not just focused on romantic connections, because this could be your connection with a friend or a family member or someone from your past even that's trying to teach you whatever it is that you're needing to heal. So it's someone that you're attached to, someone you're connected to that is trying to teach you a lesson. Not necessarily they're trying to teach you, but the connection's purpose is to teach you a lesson. The other thing that I recommend is to make sure that you're looking at it because every person is a reflection of ourself. Try as hard as you can to look at it as you and your connection to yourself. All right, Capricorn, on your side of this connection, you have communication is key with involution. So this involution card is a lot about evolution is, the growth, it can be kind of change over time, how things start to evolve. But involution is taking the growth within and bringing it without. Because I feel like, you've learned a lot, you've grown a lot. The overall energy for this reading, you have growth and power. So there's a lot of power in how much you've grown. But the thing is that you're still struggling with your communication. And I feel like you have a tendency to let the problems in this connection get so big because you build them up in your head and you don't ever, communicate those. You don't ever, until it's like you don't communicate them until it becomes this big deal, and then it becomes more of an issue than it actually is because of how you've built it up in your head. Now, trust me, we all have a tendency of doing that. But, again, the overall energy is growth and power. So this is taking this growth that you've had, because you've obviously had, a lot of growth in, your recent kind of environment. And I feel like it's now taking that to better this connection and ultimately better yourself, bettering a relationship with yourself to better, the connection to whoever this may be for you. But their side of the connection, they have adjustments are required with nourishment. So they need a little bit of adjustment in how they nourish this connection. I feel like they have a hard time really nourishing themselves, whether that be emotionally, physically, whatever the case might be. And so they're having a hard time really nourishing this connection in the way that you would like them to. But then I feel like you don't communicate that, which causes conflict. The energy in between this is a time for healing with the Philosopher's Stone. So this connection is really teaching you a lot, because the Philosopher's Stone is like a mythic substance that could transform like basic metals into silver and gold. So it took something very basic and turned it into something beautiful, right? Turn it into something of value. So the way that I'm saying this is look past the circumstances of this connection, look past the reactiveness that this connection has, and try to really get down to how is this connection pushing you to grow, because that's ultimately what relationships are for, is they push us to grow. And what's coming up kind of here, it's funny because my boyfriend and I were talking about this last night, and it was probably the coolest conversation I've ever had in a relationship before. We were talking about how, we obviously, the times that we are at odds with each other, that we argue, like, it sucks and it's not fun, but we always learn something that makes our relationship better. So, we've started to look at like those times where we are, going through rough patches as like, having a little bit of gratitude and saying, what is this trying to teach us? Because we know that whatever we're learning from this is going to make us better. And I feel like that's what's needed in this connection, is looking at how this is trying to help you grow as a person. All right, Capricorn, let's start by looking at your side of the connection. This is Capricorn side of the connection to the person that they are dealing with. This is Capricorn side of the connection to the person that they are dealing with. You have some secrets that need to come out. Like, I feel like there's a level of not being totally honest with this person about how you feel. And, maybe that honesty, the fear of honesty, stems from your fear of their reaction to it. I know for me, especially in my, after being in several toxic relationships, and now that I'm in my first like real healthy reciprocal one, I'm still learning that I am able to communicate my needs without him getting angry at me, and he will communicate back and we will come to a solution. But I even struggle kind of with the overthinking and getting too in my head until it builds up into something so big that I start becoming reactive, and it turns into something that it doesn't need to be, that could have been solved by communication. But because of my past, I've had a hard time learning how to communicate because my communication has never been taken well. And I feel like this is why, like, kind of a similar energy here, where it's like this relationship, it needs communication, and I feel like you're having a hard time. There's this fear of being honest um, about your feelings or about your needs or whatever the case might be, because there's a fear of their reaction to it. But I feel like, based on what I can tell so far, this connection has the tendency to be very beautiful. And I feel like, as long as you are both open to growth, then it really, I feel like this person will respond better than you think they will to whatever it is that's needing to be said. But let's look at Capricorn side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. It says Capricorn side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. I think that card just turned around. Did you guys see that? I guess not. Oh, yeah, it did. There it is. I'll do the Lovers in reverse too. No, that's going to be on the bottom. Okay, so the Seven of Cups here with the Lovers in reverse. You're feeling very emotionally overwhelmed, and I feel like a lot of that is because you're staying in your head about so much. Like this involution card, the quote that was in the book for it, because this is a new deck, so I like to look it up and gather information on them. Obviously I have a first kind of feeling about the card, but the way that I'm kind of gathering is it said something like, the mind is torture for those who do not know how to control it. And so I feel like you're having a tendency to let your mind run away with you, like maybe worst case possibilities, or whatever the case might be. But ultimately, the reason you're feeling overwhelmed is you're not seeing your worth. So I feel like there's a level of you that's like, well, I don't want to speak up because I don't want to lose them, or I don't want them to react poorly, or whatever the case is. But that's not seeing your worth, right? Your needs should always be met. If you feel like something is not being met, if you feel like there's a part of you that isn't getting what you deserve out of this connection, then you've got to speak up about it. And if that person reacts poorly, then that's a direct answer for you to say that you deserve better. And whenever you do choose yourself, the universe will always respond with providing you with better for yourself. But yeah, it's almost like with the Lovers in reverse, and you have this Well card underneath, which is one of the two additional major arcanas that this specific deck has. I thought about taking it out because these two decks that I'll be using, because I'm using 3 different decks, 7 different decks for this whole reading, but 3 different for each, energy. I thought about taking it out, but I really like it for your side because I think it can give us a little bit more in-depth information here. And the Well card is about learning to allow go with the flow of things. So if something isn't supposed to be, then it's like, if something comes, let it. If something goes, let it. If you need to walk away from something, then make sure that you do that. But there's a level of you just not being realistic with yourself about, it's like you expect this person to meet your needs without you communicating them. And I get that because I've been there before, but this person, it's like you want them to nourish their connection different, and they do. Like they have that on their side. There are adjustments that are required, but they're not really going to know that until they hear it from you first. And I feel like there's a level of that that's needed, that level of that communication that's needed here. All right, this is Capricorn side of the connection to the person that they are dealing with. Yeah, you're very stuck. It's like, okay, so you have the 6 of Swords in reverse, 3 of Wands, 5 of Wands, and then the 4 of Swords here. You're very stuck on something. And there's a need to step out of your comfort zone, because whatever it is that you're stuck on is creating a lot of conflict here. And the conflict is coming from your side. Like I feel like you're finding conflict in the way that they're not responding to this connection, but there's a level of you that hasn't asked for what you needed yet. And now if you ask for what you need and they refuse to give it, then that's a different story, because that comes down to this person just straight up isn't willing to give you what you deserve. But I ultimately feel like they are, and there needs to be a level of communication saying, this is what I need, and you kind of, saying, setting a boundary with yourself and saying, if I don't get what I need, then that means I need to adjust my my approach to whether or not this connection is right for me. But with the 4 of Swords here, there's a need to really go within, spend some time alone, spend some quiet time, and process through a lot of, because you've learned a lot, like you've learned what you deserve, but now there's a need to like you're still communicating from a place of not fully knowing your worth, and you're doing that because of your past, right? You've experienced past situations that haven't turned out well. Whenever you do communicate whatever it is that you need, and that's why this, like the communication that's needed, feels so far out of your comfort zone is because it is. Because your comfort zone up until now has been like, I'm not going to communicate and I'm going to expect them to give me what I need. But when they don't, then I'm going to get frustrated with them. And I feel like they might be doing the same thing. So again, this is not saying that you're doing anything wrong, but you can't control other people, right? You can only control yourself. And if other people are a direct reflection of you, of your relationship with yourself, you can only control how your relationship with yourself affects your relationship with others. And it really does impact it. Like every time my boyfriend and I get in an argument, I'm always looking at what can I do to better my relationship with myself? What is this reflecting back at me? Obviously, there still needs to be the conversation between the two of us that says, hey, this is bothering me. But then I also have to do the work in saying, it always takes two. There really are three sides to every story. What am I doing that I need to work on too? And I feel like it's not that you're not good at that. Like, I do feel like you have the ability to look within and go within, but the actual communication with the other person is where you're kind of getting stuck. Capricorn side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. Capricorn side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. The Six of Pentacles in reverse with the Four of Cups and the Eight of Swords. You aren't receiving what it is that you want here. Your needs aren't being met. You feel like you're giving more than you're getting. And with this Eight of Swords, it's like, that's a limiting belief. You feel like that's how relationships always have to be. Now remember, this doesn't just have to be romantic, right? This could be anyone, coworker, friends, family, whatever the case is. But also on the other side with this Four of Cups, it's like you have a tendency to dwell on what this connection isn't providing you as opposed to the good stuff in it. And I feel like there's a need here to really try to look past what you're not getting, look past the lack. In the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, she literally talks about the more that you focus on the things about your partner, again, I'm not trying to talk just romantic, but the more that you focus on the way that a connection bothers you, like something that your partner does or your friend does that bothers you, and you give so much emotional energy toward that, the more that you're actually going to see that pop up in the connection. But the more that you focus on what your partner does that brings you a lot of joy and happiness, the gratitude that you have for the things that the good aspects of the connection, the more that you will see those. Remember, your perception is your reality. However, what you focus on, you attract more of. How you respond is the product of your reality. And I feel like there's literally a level of having a tendency to focus on what you're lacking in a connection as opposed to what you have. And that creates more lack within the connection within itself. So do make sure that you're paying a little bit of attention to your focus here, but make sure that you're also speaking up about the fact that you don't feel like certain needs are being met. And you can do that in a loving way, right? Like you can say, you do so much for me and I'm so grateful for everything that you are, but this is still a conversation that needs to be had because it's a need that I just feel isn't being met. You deserve to have your needs met. Capricorn side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. Capricorn side of the connection to the person that they are dealing with, please. No, sorry, those are both upside down. The Nine of Cups in reverse with the Two of Pentacles in reverse. I really wanted that to be right side up, but it just wasn't. This is a level of dwelling on the negative. This is a very similar card to that Four of Cups for me, where it's like, I feel like you might do this in your life, Capricorn, and trust me, I get it. Because it's not that you're a negative person and it's not that you don't have gratitude. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that your tendency, like your focus tends to veer toward the lack, toward the negative situations instead of the focusing on the gratitude. And then I feel like you start to see more of that, and that creates more issues. And I feel like you also, because this is clarifying the Seven of Cups, you get really in your head because what's bothering you isn't being communicated, and so you build it up, and then other things start triggering you because this, the root of it is whatever it is, your needs not being met. And so you start seeing more negative situations because you're looking at it through the lens of the frustration of, my needs aren't being met, and you deserve to have your needs met. Now, again, if you speak up and you say, I deserve to have these needs met, and they're saying, no, like I can't, or like if someone tells you that your needs or you are too much, then you are asking the wrong person. Your needs are never too much, but the person that you're asking just might not have the capability. Now, if they're not and you haven't spoke up about it, then that just means they might not have the knowledge or the understanding that that is what you need. And so there's a need to look a little bit further into this, right? And say, again, how am I playing a role in my lack of, because this Nine of Cups is in reverse is discontentment. So if I'm discontent about something, sorry, I keep touching my hair because it's driving me crazy. It's like really soft and it feels weird on my forehead. But anyway, because there's this lack of balance here, and if you lack balance, if you lack the ability to see the brighter side, and during the negative times, then they're going to too. I mean, again, it's all a reflection. Your power in this connection is going to be the growth that you've had up until now, and using the growth, because we grow mentally, but we have to learn. Like, knowledge is useless unless you actually use it to change your response to your reality. So you can learn all day long what you need to do to create a healthy connection, but until you take that knowledge and you apply it to a connection, then you're not going to be able to actually create the healthy connection. And so I feel like you've learned a lot, and now it's time to actually take what you've learned and apply it to the connection. And you've learned that you deserve your needs to be met, and so it's time to start asking for it. This is Capricorn side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. You need to realize that this connection is trying to get you to heal, because I feel like you have a tendency to kind of just like move on, like it's like, oh, we talked about it, we can just move on, instead of really trying to learn the lessons you need to, because this connection is pushing you to heal. It really, really is. And the healing that could come from this connection could set you free from this feeling of discontentment, because it's not that I don't think that this connection within itself is something you're discontent with, but there's certain aspects of it that you are discontent with it, certain needs that aren't being met, things like that. And it's, this connection is trying to teach you to ask for what you deserve. You've got to ask for it. You've got to be honest about what you deserve, or else you're going to kind of find yourself, stuck in this feeling of being discontent. Because again, it's not that this connection isn't what you want, because I feel like it is, but no connection can fulfill you, to the fullest extent. It really is about, you've got to fulfill yourself first, and then that will be reflected back at you. I promise you. I've watched my life transform because of that truth. All right, Cap, let's look at this person's side of the connection. This is the person that Capricorn's dealing with, side of the connection to Capricorn. Oh my goodness. I'm going to try that again. The person that Capricorn's dealing with, side of the connection to Capricorn. One more. Person that Capricorn's dealing with, side of the connection to Capricorn. Because, yeah, they obviously have adjustments that are needed in this connection. They also struggle with a lack of gratitude. That's that right there, this 10 of Pentacles in reverse, that's a lack of gratitude. And they're in the last stretch of that. It's not that they're not grateful for you. Please don't think that. I mean, depending on because this is a general reading, so the intensity of these energies, it kind of, it's going to vary person to person. But the way that I see this is like, it's this person, they struggle with it too, in terms of they have a tendency to focus on the negative as opposed to what the good in the connection. Now, you can't control that about them. You can control that about you, though, and then that will help this connection, because I feel like they have a tendency to take you for granted, but I also feel like that might be the other way around too. Having a tendency to kind of take each other for granted. And that's super easy to fall into in any relationship. I mean, my significant other and I have had a conversation about that too, is like, we don't want to get to a point where we just get so used to having each other around that we expect it, right? You want to always look at the person that you're with as a blessing. Now that can also mean friendships too, family members, whatever it is the more that you focus on gratitude for the people in your life, the more that you start seeing more of that. This person needs a little bit of a perspective shift. I feel like they have a tendency to focus on, they have a tendency to dwell on the negative more than you do. They definitely do. I feel like that's the case here. Or at least one person does more than the other. But know that it is a reflection. It is a reflection here. Okay, this person's energy toward Capricorn. But with the 9 of Wands in reverse, this is a cycle that I feel like is trying to come to a close. So this energy that I'm talking about, this like lack of gratitude or feeling underappreciated or whatever the case might be, it's probably really being highlighted right now. This person's connection toward Capricorn. This person's being really defensive right now. They have hope for this connection. They really want this connection to be it's interesting, because I feel like they want to like be able to be honest with you about how they feel and like be, super vulnerable and things like that. Like, they want to. I feel like they're still learning how. They're learning how, because adjustments are required with nourishment. Now, if they're learning how to be vulnerable with you, then they're learning how to be vulnerable with themselves. It's just kind of the way things go here. Because remember, this is a healing connection, but this connection also has the potential for a lot of growth for each individual. Yes, for the connection as a whole, but for each individual. And this person's being super defensive right now. I feel like they have this, because it's like I feel like this person has a tendency to self-sabotage, or maybe they have a lot in the past, and maybe sometimes that comes up in this connection. This person's connection toward Capricorn, they stress about this connection a lot, and I feel like you don't even really realize that. They stress about the communication between you two. Page of Swords, Nine of Swords here with the Wheel of Fortune, because they want, the Wheel of Fortune is like they want positive changes in this connection, because I feel like both of you are a little discontent with certain aspects. Again, not with the connection as a whole, but with certain aspects, and they stress a lot about this. I feel like you don't know that, but they have a lot of stress about this, and I feel like the communication is a big part of that, because I feel like if you're not communicating, then they have the ability to kind of see things. Same exact thing you're dealing with is like, because there's a little bit of a lack of communication here, you guys have a tendency to create things in your mind, to create problems in your mind, and then use those problems as a reason that there's an issue in the connection, when in reality a lot of the issues that you might be dwelling on could be created in your head because there's a lack of clarity in the connection. Now that's not you can't blame one person or the other there. You've got to make sure that this is mutual communication. Now again, if you try to communicate and they are not receptive, then that's a sign, right? That's a sign that you deserve better. But I feel like you don't realize how much this person stresses about it, and I feel like sometimes they feel like you don't communicate with them either. But there's that Nine of Cups. I mean, they want this, you want this too. There's no doubt about that. I just feel like it's like how to make it happen for both of you is kind of the key here. It says this person's connection to Capricorn. Yeah, this person's being really defensive, and I feel like you feel that, and that makes it hard, I think, for you to communicate. Maybe is because they do respond defensively, but I feel like that's why there's a need to make sure that you're approaching from a little bit of a loving place. You not just like make sure that when you communicate, you're not like, you do this, you do that, you don't do this, you don't do that. Say like, I feel like this is missing. This is how I feel. Make sure that you come from a place of how you feel and how this connection is affecting you, and not from a place of accusation, because of course if you accuse them of certain things, they're going to get defensive. People always respond to how you approach them, right? But if you can have like the ability to be loving and open and honest and vulnerable, and say, of course, you do so many things for me and I appreciate all these things, but this is missing, and I still feel like I don't yet have this from you, or I feel like I'm still, I'm trying to get this, figured out between us, or whatever the case is. And that creates open dialogue. But when you come from a place of, you're not doing this, that just creates defensiveness. There's no dialogue, there's no conversation to be had there, because it turns into a yes you did, no I didn't kind of thing, instead of like, this is how I feel, how do you feel about that creates more of a conversation. Then you get insight to their side of things, and that creates clarity, which already, when you can create clarity when you're having an issue, that already opens the door for finding a solution. But until you can create clarity between you two, I feel like this problem is going to present. Capricorn's side, or the person that Capricorn's dealing with, side of the connection to Capricorn. This person's connection to Capricorn, because they stress about this, and they want to nourish this. Like they enjoy having this connection in their life. This connection. Look at that Nine of Cups in reverse with the okay. So you guys both have this. You guys both have a tendency to dwell on the negative, which is exactly. I mean, this is falling under this Nine of Wands in reverse, which had that that energy of that we were talking about before, that lack of gratitude. But here's the thing, they have a little bit of unrealistic expectation. This person is looking for you to fulfill them a little bit more than you should have to bear the burden of. And now I feel like you might be looking for the same thing, and that's where there's that need to go within and make sure that you're using your self growth to as a reason. I don't look at this connection as helping you build a better relationship with yourself. Again, that is the beauty of our connection to other people, is they help us grow and build relationships with ourselves. They literally help us on our journey become better for ourselves. But I feel like there's a level here of both of you kind of like punting off a little bit of blame, instead of looking within and figuring out how both people have played a role. Now there's always that level of like needing to be, maybe you need to be angry, maybe you need to be frustrated for a little bit. Don't act on that, and try not to communicate from that, because that will create defensiveness on their end, and that will not be productive conversation. But if you're in an energy right now of being like, I can't communicate from a loving place because I am so mad, I am so frustrated, then take your time. This isn't, you don't have to rush to get there, but it is definitely something that's needed in order to have the healing that you're looking for in this connection. This is the person that Capricorn's dealing with side of the connection to Capricorn. That's too many. I don't want that many cards. I'm already pulling a lot of messages here. Clear, concise messages for the person that Capricorn's dealing with side of the connection to Capricorn. Ooh. This connection triggers their past. This connection triggers their past. That's why they have a tendency to get defensive. That's why they stress about your communication. I feel like sometimes they misread the way you communicate. And I feel like it's because of the way that you communicate. You're communicating from a place of holding back. They read it as a certain way. They see things through the lens of their past. They assume, there's a lot of assumption. There's a lot of room for assumption there. And the assumption never creates healthy connections, especially if you act on that assumption. Yeah, you're triggering their past like crazy. Maybe they've been in connections in the past and that weren't very good to them. And sometimes the way that you communicate reminds them of those. Not that you remind them of those, but they can get triggered by the way that you communicate, because a lot of times I feel like the communication can be a little bit maybe like rough around the edges, or like a little bit, sorry, I didn't set the intention, a little bit not like, just not to the point. Like maybe you beat around the bush, or like you're just not direct with them, or there's a little passive aggressiveness going on. Whatever the case is, I just feel like they stress about your connection, and I feel like it's because of the communication or lack thereof. This person's connection to Capricorn, but you trigger their past. That's why they get defensive. Is they don't mean to be defensive at all, but you trigger things that they've been through that makes them feel like they have to protect themselves. They feel sad. It's like these triggers trick them into believing that there's something, like that they're losing this connection, or that like I don't know, there's just with this 5 of Cups energy, I feel like they could have some regret here too. I don't think they'd ever be honest with you about that. I feel like they have regret about their past, and they're scared of repeating self-sabotaging behaviors, because I did say they had a tendency to self-sabotage. So I feel like they fear repeating self-sabotaging behaviors because they still have some healing that needs to be done. Now this connection is helping them heal from their past. But I just ultimately feel like, they do have adjustments are required with nourishment here. They do need to, to adjust the way that they're nourishing this connection. But there's also that level of you needing to ask for what you need, right? Takes two. All right, Capricorn, we are going to hop on over to the extended to take a look at the truth of this connection, the higher level energy here. You have a time for healing with Philosopher's Stone. The information for that is in the description box below. And thank you guys so much for the support of this channel. This is a newer channel, but it is also my livelihood, so I do appreciate you guys. I did used to have a tarot channel in the past, but I got rid of it for some personal reasons, and here we are now. Long story short, I'm trying to do things a little bit different. I'm trying to approach my readings from helping people heal. So these love and relationships readings, that's why I'm pushing you, to look within and make sure that you're looking at what needs to be healed, instead of just like, just kind of spying on the person that you're wanting to spy on. So thank you guys so much again. I hope that this helped and resonated with some of you guys out there, and I do hope to see you in future readings. Bye, Capricorn.